Hey guys, this is Mr. A. Chrissy here, and welcome to my movie review on the brand new 2021 remake of West Side Story, directed by Steven Spielberg. Yep, that's right. Me and Uncle Charles went and saw this movie together at my local Regal movie theater, like back on Saturday. We actually saw this movie last night before I watched the original West Side Story. And so this is going to be my movie review on the 2021 remake of West Side Story, directed by Steven Spielberg. So, the West Side Story remake is directed by Steven Spielberg, like I said, one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, Steven Spielberg. And so this remake stars Ansel Elgort, as Ansel Elgort plays Tony in this version, and Rachel Zegler, she plays Maria in this version. So yeah, Ansel Elgort is like the actor from The Fault in Our Stars and Baby Driver. And so the story of West Side Story, the remake, it's kind of the same as the original. It's kind of the same story as the original, only that it's not really like a shot for shot remake where it's just reenacting every single scene from the original. Because the story of the new West Side Story goes like this: Love at first sight strikes when young Tony spots Maria at a high school dance in 1957 New York City. Their romance helps to fuel the fire between the warring Jets and Sharks, two rival gangs vying for control of the streets. Yeah. So, and of course we got ourselves a Steven Spielberg remake of West Side Story made by 20th Century Studios. So what do I think of it? Honestly, I gotta say, I really enjoyed the new West Side Story from 2021. I actually thought it was a great musical film from 2021. I also enjoyed the other musical film that came out back in like earlier this year called In the Heights. And I loved In the Heights. In the Heights is still one of my favorite musicals of 2021, along with the new West Side Story. And I think Steven Spielberg did a great job working on this film and directing this film, because I still appreciate Steven Spielberg and his work for other films he worked on. And Steven Spielberg, he does a great job no matter what. And the actors in this film did do a good job too. Like Ansel Elgort, I thought Ansel Elgort did a good job playing Tony in this version. And Rachel Zegler as Maria, she was good. And yeah, and of course the music in this film, it was just as good as the original, because the music was actually done by like the late Leonard Bernstein, but the music was actually arranged by a composer named David Newman. And I think David Newman did a good job arranging the music score, the music and songs for West Side Story. Yeah. And I will say that the new West Side Story is also one of my favorite films of 2021 as well. Yeah, that's right. And the sound design, like the sound effects, the sound design in West Side Story, it sounded really good. And the way the setting looks, like the way it takes place in like New York City, like the setting or the mood of 1957, it's really good. And the sound effects, like even the sound effects, so like the sound design was actually done by one of my favorite sound designers at Skywalker Sound, Gary Rydstrom. Yeah, that's right. Because like even before this movie came out, I've heard that Gary Rydstrom worked on the sound effects for West Side Story. And I do love Gary Rydstrom. I think Gary Rydstrom's an awesome sound designer, and his sound effects are awesome to listen to. And Gary Rydstrom has done sound effects for other movies, like, and some other films, and that he won an Oscar for Best Sound. Like some of the sound effects he worked on were Titanic, Jurassic Park, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, and the Pixar movies he worked on the sound effects for many Pixar films. I think Gary Rydstrom also did the sound effects for a little bit of short films like Tin Toy and Luxor Jr., because Gary Rydstrom did the sound effects for the Pixar logo. And of course, like for their first four films, Gary Rydstrom worked on the sound effects for Toy Story, A Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, Monsters, Inc. I mean, I know Gary Rydstrom also worked on the sound for Finding Nemo and Brave, but only the first four Pixar films have a sound effects only version where you can only hear the sound effects and no talking, no dialogue, and no music. Yeah, and only hearing the sound effects it really appreciates Gary Rydstrom's work for sound. And you can probably guess what were the Foley artists doing when they were making sound. Of course, like the Foley artists, like, you know, the art of making sound. That's what Foley is. But for West Side Story 2021, I didn't really recognize any Gary Rydstrom sound effects that I recognized a little bit. I didn't really recognize any sounds by Gary Rydstrom that he reused in other films. Like for Titanic and A Bug's Life, Gary Rydstrom, you can use that airplane whoosh sound, like, you know, for when the Titanic breaks in half and sinks with a thunderous splash, you know, where the Titanic lands in a thunderous splash. And of course, the airplane whoosh was also used for the rain sequence and for A Bug's Life, the rain arriving at Ant Island. Yeah, because you guys know how much I love the airplane whoosh sound by Gary Rydstrom. And yeah, and the previews I saw in front of West Side Story, they looked really good too. Like I know, like, oh yeah, and the last two previews they showed for West Side Story, they were actually the Pixar movie Turning Red, which I'm looking forward to seeing, as well as The Kingsman. And The Kingsman actually comes out The Kingsman actually comes out in like 2 weeks, I think, from on December 22nd, the same day as Matrix Resurrections and Sing 2. And and of course the previews in front of West Side Story that I saw were pretty good. Some that I'm interested in a little bit. Yeah, some that I'm interested. Yeah. So overall, West Side Story 2021 was a great remake by Steven Spielberg, and I'm gonna give West Side Story 2021 a 4.5 out of 5 stars. While I do say I enjoy both versions of West Side Story, I will say I think the 1961 version of West Side Story is still the best, because you know what they say, the original is always the best. So there you have it, guys. So there you have it, guys. If you haven't seen West Side Story yet, if you haven't seen the new one, then I recommend checking it out. But I also recommend checking out the 1961 version before checking out the new one. So there you have it, guys. That's gonna be it for this video. So make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And as always, thanks for watching. And until next time, this is Mr. A. Crizzy saying goodbye, everybody, and that's about it.